It is 6:30 p.m. and council members are assembled. You may begin the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everybody who's joining us in the chambers this evening and everyone joining us by the live stream and of course all committee members. Glad everybody's here. Second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement and I'll ask Councillor Duhaime for that this evening.
We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nations. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for their contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you. So the third item on our agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no open forum requests, so we're on to delegations. And we have 3 delegations this evening. And I'll just remind all of our delegations that council has allotted 10 minutes for each of our delegations. So we would appreciate it if you'd adhere to that timeline for us. So our first delegation is actually one that we have requested, and it's from our Heritage Committee, and it is the Saugeen Shores 2023 Heritage Conservation Award recognition. Linda Dahl is the recipient, and I'll turn it over to the chair of the Municipal Heritage Committee to speak to that. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Municipal Heritage Committee is pleased to award the 2023 Heritage Conservation Award to Linda Dahl, who was the driving force behind the designation of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Southampton. With the support of St. Andrew's trustees and the congregation, Linda approached the Heritage Committee in 2021 with inquiries about how to proceed with the provincial heritage designation process. The committee wishes to recognize Linda's leadership in bringing about the designation of this important heritage property, which has served the community as Southampton's oldest actively used church building since 1862 and is integral to the heritage streetscape, of Albert Street North. The comprehensive St. Andrew's application includes its architectural features, the history of the church and its leaders, as well as its continuing cultural and social role in Southampton. As the leader of this project, Ms. Dahl made presentations of this application to the Municipal Heritage Committee in April and to the Saugeen Shores Committee of the Whole in May. Linda also spoke about the church's experience in the designation process at the Heritage Committee's open house on August 9th. On July 10th, 2023, Council passed a bylaw authorizing the heritage designation of St. Andrews, the first heritage designation in Saugeen Shores since 1998. The Heritage Committee recognizes Ms. Dahl's leadership in modeling the designation process for our community at a particularly opportune time for heritage conservation in our province. Thank you, Linda, for your and St. Andrew's commitment to heritage and our community.
Thank you. So it's our honor this evening to have Linda Dahl with us, and I'd invite her up to receive her award. And I'd also invite all the members of the Heritage Committee who are in the room as well to join us at the front.
Oh, there we are. Sorry.
Just like to say thank you, and I really am honored to receive this, but there are several other people that worked very hard on this project with me, and they deserve this too. So this is for everybody that helped me with this. And I think it's really important to try and save our buildings. They really add to the character and the beauty of the community, both Southampton and Port Elgin. And they represent our history. And during the process, I learned a lot about the history of the church and spent quite a bit of time at the archives at the museum. So lots of help from them too. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank you once again, and congratulations, and thank you for all you've done to preserve the heritage of our community. All right, so now we're on to our second delegation, which is from Jeff Stevenson and Kyle McLean. And they're here to talk to us about regulatory oversight report for the Canadian Nuclear Power Generating Sites 2022. And they're from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. And the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And before we begin, maybe I'll add my thanks to Ms. Dahl and the Heritage Committee for their outstanding work. It's great, as a resident of Saugeen Shores, it's great to see that our history continues to thrive and is being recognized. So thank you for that. So thanks for the introductions there, Mayor Charbonneau. My name is Jeff Stevenson, and this is Kyle McLean. We work for the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. If you're not familiar with us, we are Canada's nuclear regulator. We regulate the use of nuclear energy and materials in Canada to protect the health and safety of public, the environment, and to ensure that Canada's national security remains intact, and to ensure that the international obligations that Canada has with respect to nuclear energy is being adhered to. So before we really get into the presentation, one of the key objectives that the CNSC has is to build trust with the communities and Canadians in general. And so as public servants, as I'm sure many people are familiar with in this area, in this room, we answer to the public. We answer to effectively you folks. So we wanted to make sure that we had to give you the opportunity to be able to ask us questions about the oversight that we do of the nuclear industry that's occurring in your backyard. So in order to help facilitate openness and transparency and regulation of the nuclear industry, we produce a report every year called the Regulatory Oversight of Canadian Nuclear Power Generating Sites. So this report was published last month in December, where it was presented to our commission, and there were a number of public interventions, and want to note and thank Saugeen Shores for providing an intervention into that commission meeting. But again, I just wanted to, we wanted to be able to share sort of the high level summary of those results with you today, and allow you that opportunity to ask us questions as well. So Kyle and I are inspectors with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and we oversee Bruce Power. There are other, as I'm sure everyone in the room is familiar with, there are other nuclear facilities in the area, Douglas Point, OPG's Western Waste Facility, but Kyle and I focus on the oversight of the Bruce A and B nuclear generating stations. There are others in the CNSC who do the oversight of those other facilities, and we work with them closely where needed. But again, our area of responsibility really is the power plants. So no surprise to you, Bruce A and B have an operating license from us that's required under Canadian law in order to use nuclear or operate nuclear facilities in Canada. Units 1 through 5, 7, and 8 were all operational in 2022, which is the period covered by the reports. Obviously, they've been operational since then as well. And Unit 6 was in a major component refurbishment, major component replacement outage. In 2022, obviously 2023, Unit 6 returned to service, and Unit 3 began its MCR outage as well. So I'll just go on here. So as I mentioned, Kyle and I are inspectors at the Bruce site. So our day-to-day job is to do inspections on behalf of Canadians at the nuclear facility. So we don't work for Bruce Power, we don't work for OPG, we work for Canadians. On the slide here shows a number of the different types of activities we do. Overall, now the numbers here are presented for the whole nuclear industry in Canada. But for the Bruce site, we had 468 findings specific to Bruce Power. 366 were compliant findings with all regulatory requirements. 83 of those findings had negligible safety significance. 19 of them had low safety significance, and there were no findings that had medium or high safety significance. We also review routine event reports that Bruce Power sends to us to let us know of what's occurring at the station. Again, the numbers here that are on the slide here are for the whole nuclear industry, but there were 67 reports from Bruce Power that we also reviewed and assessed. All of this information fed into the regulatory oversight report where we presented our findings. So this slide here, based on all that information, this slide here kind of presents our findings. So safety performance at Bruce Power remains satisfactory, meeting all regulatory requirements. There's a number of improvements that have been made over the years through different improvement plans that Bruce Power has made and we have overseen to continue to improve the level of safety at the power plant. So yeah, not much else to say there. Some of the key activities that you may be aware of through some of the engagement activities that I know Bruce Power does with you. There was a nuclear safety and security culture assessment that was conducted as per our requirements. That was conducted in 2022. Some of the other major initiatives that folks either may have been involved in, such as the full-scale emergency exercise that was conducted. There was a major outage that took place at Bruce A to make sure that all of the system structures and components remain safe for continued operation. And most recently, the isotope production system was installed in one of the Bruce B units. In addition, we've had a lot of work with the industry on the research and development activities around some of the fitness for service questions that we had on pressure tubes, and Bruce Power continues to make adequate progress on that. So just touching very briefly on the major component replacement project, again, not probably news to anyone in this room, but the Unit 6 MCR outage was completed and the units returned to services and in full power, full back to commercial operation now. All of our regulatory hold points have been released once Bruce Power was able to satisfactorily demonstrate that all the systems were ready to go and were safe to support full power operation. Unit 3 major component replacement is in progress at the moment, where they're still taking out some of the old reactor components. So with this, I'll turn it over to Kyle to go through some of the next slides.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, the next item from 2022 that we wanted to highlight here was our Independent Environmental Monitoring Program, or IEMP for short. So through this program, roughly every 3 years, our environment specialists from Ottawa will come to the area here and take samples within the communities. So shown from the pictures, here are examples, food samples. We have our air sampling station set up. We take soil, vegetation samples, and water samples from the lake. These samples are then taken back to our laboratory in Ottawa and analyzed for hazardous and radioactive substances. And the results are then posted on our CNSC webpage. So this would feature the results from the summer of 2022, as well as the previous year's campaigns as well. And moving on to our next slide here, just wanted to touch briefly as well that although, as Jeff mentioned, we're responsible for oversight of the Bruce nuclear generating stations, we also have staff within our waste and decommissioning division that perform inspections at our OPG licensed facilities at the Bruce site, such as Western Waste Management Facility, and the results of these oversights at WMF, as well as RWAS, Radioactive Waste Operating Site 1, are featured within the regulatory oversight report as well. Next, we just wanted to touch on some of the future focus areas that we envision amongst the CNSC. First up is carrying out our planned compliance activities. completing our planned inspections at site, as well as previously mentioned by Jeff, carrying out our oversight activities of the major component replacement projects, primarily Unit 3 for the following year, as well highlights for the upcoming years. We expect assessing applications for production of new medical isotopes, as well as reviewing submissions from Bruce Power related to Project 2030. And of course, with the announcement from the previous year, the upcoming impact assessment for the Bruce C potential new build. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jeff for concluding remarks.
Thanks, Kyle. So again, just to conclude, so throughout 2022 and obviously through to today and into the future, we continue to perform routine oversight activities of Bruce Power, OPG, and all the other operators that use nuclear substances in the area. And our conclusions based on that oversight are that the public remains protected based on that those oversight activities. Doses to workers and doses to the public remain well within regulatory limits, a very small percentage of the regulatory limits, ensuring that the public remains protected. And all nuclear material is being used peacefully to support Canada's international obligations. Any issues that are identified through our oversight activities, through our inspections, are promptly identified by Bruce Power and OPG. And are adequately addressed. And therefore, as a result, all safety and control areas that we look at for Bruce A, B, and Western Waste Management Facility have been rated as satisfactory. So with that, that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that the committee poll has, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. Are there questions or comments from members? Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, to both our speakers, Jeff and Kyle. Do you have an office? Like, is your office at Bruce Power? Do you have an office elsewhere? I just wondered.
Yeah, thanks. We do have an office at site. There are 10 inspectors there that have full-time oversight function at Bruce Power and the surrounding facilities. And so, you know, as Kyle and I are local residents of Saugeen Shores here, but we have folks that are residents of the other local communities as well. So.
Okay, and my other question was, has this or will this presentation be made to Saugeen First Nation in the future?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for that. So as a Crown corporation, we have a responsibility to engage and consult with the local First Nation communities. So we actually have a terms of reference with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, where we partner with them on the oversight of the nuclear facilities. So we meet with them routinely, both at the working level and at the leadership level, to share this presentation as well as other activities that we work on regularly. So yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One more question. But there is no Saugeen First Nation resident that is on in your office or that sort of thing?
No, there is no Saugeen First Nation inspector at the Bruce site office at the moment. We do, when we do hire for new inspectors, we do let the Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawa First Nation know that we are hiring and obviously encourage them to apply. And we will continue to do so.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, thank you both for the presentation. It's always good to have information about a facility that's very important to our community, that has been very important and will be very important going into the future. I wanted to ask, this report that you said was finished in December, how do you make that available to the public? Like how would someone from the public hear about that, be able to access it? Can you just say how it's distributed or promoted? Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And it wasn't really mentioned here, so I appreciate the opportunity to share that. So this report is posted on our website. It's kind of going through a bit of a revamp now to kind of meet all of the federal standards for website production anyways. But if you go onto our website, nuclearsafety.gc.ca, I believe it's on the link on the last page of our presentation, and you go to nuclear reactors, from there you will see the link to or you will see where we've posted the most recent oversight report. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? I don't see any. I had a question. I was wondering, and it was great to see in your presentation mention of the work that you're doing assessing new applications for medical isotopes. I suspect, well, I know there's one that you're working on from OPG, and Bruce Power I know has others in the pipeline. I was wondering, beyond the work at making new isotopes, is there work going on, or is there a regulatory activity happening around the manufacturing of the radiopharmaceuticals happening in Ontario? What's the CNSC's attitude toward that?
So we don't, the CNSC is a safety regulator, so we don't really get involved in any of the economic business decisions around supply chain procurement in the province. But what we do assess is when an application comes in, we will assess it against regulatory requirements and make sure that the activity that's being produced will be conducted safely. And only once our commission is satisfied that that is the case would a license be granted. Now, that being said, if a company, or person or whoever wants to approach us with a proposal for an activity, we can help facilitate a lot of dialogue to help ensure that what they're proposing will be safe. So we're there to work with proponents for any proposed project that they might have or they might wish to undertake.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I know because obviously we're very interested if there is going to be the manufacturing of radiopharmaceuticals happening in Ontario or in Canada, that it be happening here in Saugeen Shores or in Bruce County. And one thing we've heard in having conversations with the industry, and I know you and I have talked about this before, is some concern about the regulatory environment, some sense in the industry that the regulatory environment may not be conducive to that kind of activity. And so I think it's great. It's great to hear from you that there's an openness from the CNSC to working on licenses for that activity. And hopefully, I guess what I would ask to you, and I asked it to the commission earlier this year too, is do everything that you can to make it clear that while the CNSC is going to ensure that, you know, our nuclear industry is safe, it's also going to not be a barrier to the reasonable development of radiopharmaceuticals or other nuclear industry activities in our community or in Ontario or across Canada. We need to make it clear that, you know, we're a safe country, but we're also open for business. So hopefully you can, I know that you agree, and hopefully you can carry that back to your colleagues at the CNSC as well.
Yes, thanks. I'll take that message back to the folks that look after that area, and we'll reach out if we have any further questions. But thanks for that insight.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys very much for your time. We appreciate you coming in and look forward to seeing you again. All right, so now we're on to our third and final delegation, which is from Janet Dawson, Steve Curry, Gord Lamont, Ryan Brown, and Mike McNabb. And they're here to talk to us about a year-round ICE proposal. And I see Ms. Dawson, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Janet Dawson. I've been a Skate Canada professional skating instructor with the Saugeen Shores Skating Club for 36 years. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm going to speak fast because there's some few people in behind me. We're asking for your renewed support of a 3-year pilot of year-round ice to commence in 2025 that the Recreation Department had recommended start in 2021 pre-pandemic. We're also hoping for an extension of ice in 2024 that would see the ice stay in the month of May and be ready for a season start date of August the 1st, 2024. This pilot was requested to help address the exponential growth of members in our organizations and in turn, a higher demand of extended on-ice programs throughout the year. Our club has increased the number of learn to skate sessions that consistently run at capacity and have extensive wait lists. Currently, there is no ice available in Saugeen Shores from the beginning of May to the second week of August. So our athletes go outside of our community to Barrie, Owen Sound, Collingwood, wherever the ice is, to continue training to finish their competition season, to finish their testing, or to keep their conditioning up for the following season. Our request to start the 3-year pilot in 2025 will give us a year to plan and prepare and also promote the initiative to other people who have programs that are interested. And in your package, you'll see on the back page, there's a pretty robust list of people that are interested, activities, etc. I'm honored to be here with a group of representatives of key organizations who utilize the ice facilities in Saugeen Shores. It's our army of volunteers who run the programs successfully and have done for almost 65 years, some longer, almost 70 years. We've done the scheduling and coordinating registration, collection of fees that we in turn turn over to the town for the use of the facility. And I was speculating here, kind of guessing 80 to 100 hours of ice between the two rinks, the Coliseum and the Plex. And we generate revenue. Like we make money and we help provide for the maintenance costs of the building. In addition, the skating club has been able to host events, fundraising events, that has allowed us to raise thousands of dollars to build the Plex, 30,000 to the medical center, 30,000 to nonprofit groups. So we're committed and dedicated not just to our sport, but to our community. And it's my hope that with that, we can count on your support to honor the commitment to get us back on track with the extension of ice in 2024 and the year-round ice pilot starting in 2025. We would have ice right now if not for the pandemic, I'd like to think. Give us a chance and let us show you what's possible. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thanks, Janet. Good evening. My name is Steve Curry, and I'm here representing the voice in minor hockey, as well as many families in our municipality who have children in minor hockey. As I sit on the minor hockey executive as a U9 director, I see firsthand just how large our organization has become. In the current 2023-24 season, we have roughly 250 kids registered in U9 and below boys program. To put that in perspective, some organizations don't have that many kids registered in all of their entire minor hockey system. We are the largest organization in WOAA with a total of 489 boys registered, and that number has grown roughly by 60 to 70 kids each year over the past 3 seasons. Additionally, we have 180 girls registered in the OWHA, which Mike McNabb will speak to shortly. In 2023, the ice in the Plex was available starting August 21st. That left a very tight timeline to get nearly 500 kids through their required 4 bus to rust prep skates, as well as 3 minimum tryout skates before the start of the season. Remembering that Southampton does not go in until the first week of October, the majority of these had to be completed using only the Plex in Port Elgin. It has been announced by the OMHA that in 2024-25, the regular season will start on September 30th. This is roughly 2 weeks earlier than the start of the current season. This means each of the roughly expected 750 boys and girls next year will have a minimum of 7 skates, 4 preps, and 3 tryouts. And all teams will have to be selected with rosters submitted so they can start playing their regular season games as soon as September 30th. In an effort to maximize ice time in the fall, the OMHA has implemented that spring tryouts can commence starting April 20th. Currently, this is not possible in Saugeen Shores minor hockey as the ice comes out at the end of April each year, which is why we're requiring the extension in May 2024. This would ensure that we are able to support spring hockey tryouts as well as spring hockey teams such as Quick Feet, Empire Hockey, and BC Kings Hockey. This will also have a significant impact in the fall to get our minor hockey systems up and set up to be successful. Moving forward, 12 months ice would help us align Saugeen Shores with the new rules set out by the OMHA. This past summer, I personally rented the ice in Owen Sound 1 hour per week and took roughly 25 kids, the ages of 7 to 9, from Saugeen Shores to work on their development. By the start of June, I had a waiting list of kids wanting to go out on the ice, which included kids from neighboring communities. We have H&H Power Skating, who are from Saugeen Shores, who run multiple camps throughout the year and would love to take advantage of some summer ice. In addition to that, we have commitment from 4 ex-pro hockey players who are eager to bring their development programs to Saugeen Shores to work with our young kids through the summer months. Theo Peckham from the Edmonton Oilers, Stanley Cup winner Chris Menard from the Pittsburgh Penguins, Jeff Elkenbrack and Luke Pither all run programs out of town in the off season, which is heavily populated with kids from Saugeen Shores. What we are asking for in our proposal is not a nice to have, it's a must have. We have become a hockey hub that everyone is talking about. With your help, you could be supporting the development of a future NHL player from Saugeen Shores. I'll now turn it over to Gord Lamont.
Thanks, Steve. Your worship, Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of council. I just want to make a note that in the late 1990s, there was a committee of local residents that was formed to help the town council at the time with designing and fundraising of the new arena, which is the Plex as we know it today. They spent a lot of time talking to Alan Hastings, who ended up building the arena and designing it. And they all decided to install this new ice making system, which was very cutting edge new at the time. It was when it was installed, it was, I believe, the first in Ontario and the second in Canada. The main benefits of that new system were the three main benefits were it was environmentally safer. It could produce excess heat that could be used for other purposes, which includes heating this building that we're in today, and hopefully maybe the pool. I'm not sure about that, but anyways, and the big thing that we're talking about today is it was cheaper to run than the normal compressor freon systems. The council agreed to pay extra for this system so the town could save money in the future, which I believe they have. Today, I'm asking you to do some research on the system, and I believe that you will find that we can keep ice in the Plex a lot cheaper than other municipalities. There are lots of people still around today that help make that decision. The council is the same one that is on these calendars. There's a few people in there, including a Van Bastelar guy that might be around to talk to that could help inform you on some things. The committee, I can name 4 of them off the top of my head, which was Sandra Rackley, Ross Lamont, Kevin Carter, and Mike Bolton. There might have been a couple of other ones on that committee, but their names are on the lobby on the wall out here. I did have a good conversation with Sandy Rackley today. She's got a wealth of knowledge and memory about that, all the decisions that were made and why. And the Alan Hastings company is still, I see every day, got their trucks there, so they're not far away, that you could certainly talk to them about the benefits of this system and how it is cheaper to keep ice in than it is in every other municipality, other than I believe Goderich has the same system. So please let us reward these people for their foresight. Their legacy should be a lot more than just being the first council of Saugeen Shores. Thank you for your time.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. I'll be brief because I know our 10 minutes is almost up. So my name is Mike McNabb. I'm a longtime resident. I've also been, just to shed some light on the girls program, the girls hockey program that we run here in Saugeen Shores. So Steve's talked a lot about the growth of the program and the growth of girls hockey or boys hockey and hockey in general, as well as the figure skating programs. Like, it's pretty exciting time to be here in Saugeen Shores because of that reason. We have a lot of future in these kids that are going through these athletic programs, and this ice is a critical component of that. Right now we see like during the summers, athletes are traveling to other centers to do hockey camps, do figure skating and conditioning, as Janet mentioned, as well as this is starting to impact our tryouts. Like right now in the spring, we're going to be doing rep tryouts for the girls teams because of that bottleneck that happens in September. We have to get a lot of kids through and equally give everyone that opportunity to go through that in September and into October. So some teams are chosen early in September or potentially in April, and then they may not even get on the ice until early October, which then puts our teams and our athletes behind other teams, which then leads to some people leaving for other areas to go chase higher levels of hockey, but also with the same fees that we charge, they get more ice time in other centers. Now, I know that's a whole year ice time issue, but there is some impact in the spring and the fall, those shoulder seasons. Last thing that I'm particularly proud of and we're trying to work through is obviously with boys hockey, they get into body contact. This body contact training it's forced upon them for those that want to play rep hockey. With the girls program, there's no such thing, and except for a coach's initiative to do some of that training. So one thing we're working on within the Minor Hockey Association is creating body positioning clinics for the girls. Obviously not dealing with body checking, but most of that is body contact and where do you position yourself? Where do you position your skates? We've started that initiative this year, but we've only been able to get 2 sessions in because of that bottleneck, and because as soon as we get into the season, it's very hard to get instructors, personnel to support that, ice time, and then obviously getting all the kids together. So in those shoulder seasons, that's when that training needs to happen, right? And this is really about injury prevention for our young athletes, right? Not making sure they don't put themselves in a bad spot, and to avoid those severe back and neck injuries. So this is really important to our community, and really it might be generating the next PWHL player. So thanks.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you all very much. I'm sure there'll be some questions or comments for you from members, just from a standpoint of process going forward. We've heard your request today and of course received all your written material, and thank you for all the work that you've done on that. So what will happen now is our staff will generate a report in response to what you have produced today, and they'll come back to council with some information from staff for us to consider on this issue and act on. So so with that little comment about the process, I'll ask if there's questions or comments. We'll start with Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the group for the presentation. It was very clear and well organized, and I appreciate all the information you gave us. I have a question for staff actually, and that's during the summertime when we don't have ice in the Plex, what kinds of programs and events would not be able to operate in the Plex if this proposal was to come about?
The Director of Community Services.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I can answer it 2 ways. Is on a typical year, we could pull previous reports and see what events are planned. For the next 2 seasons, the off-season events are minimal due to the construction of the Aquatic and Wellness Center. So I would have to pull those reports from ActiveNet, but they can be included in the staff report that we bring back.
Okay, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, thank you for the report, and special thanks for the comment about a young girl aspiring to be in the PWHL. I know some girls who are headed in that direction. Very excited. I wanted to ask, well, to also encourage, there's 2 elements to the request here. So, you know, one is related to summer ice, but the second one is related to an extension of ice this year. So, you know, hopefully we can hear something soon about that, because May will be here before we know it. So I'm very appreciative of getting some information related to costs and how we might be able to make that work this spring and then later on in the summer. I also, just in a follow-up to Councillor Grace's comment question, we've all been places where there's been events in facilities that have ice. So, you know, I've been at the Bay Shore for concerts when the ice has been underneath the floor. So, you know, there's got to be ways that some of that could still happen too. So I look forward to the report, but certainly hope that, you know, the immediacy of one aspect of the request can get its time on an agenda in the not too far future, so that if there's anything we can do this year, we try and get it done. Thank you.
Yeah, just in response to that, I think staff's aware of all that's been requested here, and will endeavor to give us a report in a way that allows us to act on the requests. So I have Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And by the way, I agree with the Deputy Mayor about having that mini extension this year, if we can pull it off, with the extended through May and so on. My comment is I'm in full support of this move to year-round ice. I know we're waiting for a report, and that's fine, but my mind isn't going to change. I'm in full support of this move. I believe many of the summer ice activities that have moved to other communities will return if the ice is there. And I believe this can be either revenue neutral, or we might even make a few bucks on this. Matter of fact, I hope we would. In any event, according to the people that I've talked to and surveyed, they're in favor of all year ice somewhere, either at the Plex or at the Southampton Coliseum. My request is that the plan for summer ice be in place in 2025 rather than bumping out to what was suggested 2027. I suspect, as I said, we're going to ask staff for a report, and you've already confirmed that, and that's fine. But let's not drag this out, considering council was in favor to move ahead with this a few years ago. And then it stalled because of pandemic and one thing after the other. We have an excellent report here, as we've heard tonight, and there's lots of homework that's already been done. Let's move ahead with this. That's how I feel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to thank you, Janet, for you and all the rest of the presenters as well. I'm not going to hide behind this. 3 years ago, I was skeptical because I didn't think there was enough proof, that there were groups wanting to come here to use summer ice. Right or wrong, that's the way I felt. The list wasn't that extensive or that well documented. I didn't think it was that well prepared. Cost scared me a little bit. I'm in full support of it today. Just so you know, I've changed my thought on it. I think that you've got a list of 40 groups I'm seeing, Mr. Mayor, on this list. And I guess I had a question. Can I go back to the presenters to ask this question, I suppose? Of those 40 groups, Janet, it's a very impressive list. And I know a lot of the groups on there. I recognize most of them. How many of those 40 groups have you spoken to? Do you want to just?
Yeah, just come up to the microphone there if you wouldn't mind.
And the microphone. Thank you for the question. We had started this about last spring. We got together and started meeting, talking about, how can we be the choir? How can we be the collective voice and work together to get this back on track? And as part of that, we already knew the programs we wanted to run. Summer ice is not new to us. We used to have summer ice. We used to run a skating school. We used to run hockey in the Coliseum. I think it was Diane, you and I were talking about that a long time ago. So just to make this a little bit more robust proposal, we took steps to pick up the phone and call people. Steve reached out to some of the NHL players that currently go to Owen Sound. We talked to, just trying to think of the power skating folks that have typically, Bridget Wolf has been here in the past. If we build it, will you come? Yes. So the majority of things on that list, some of them were ideas, like the events, for example, they were ideas that people came up with, like Mike from the bicycle race and things like that. So, those aren't ones that said, yeah, I'm running that, but they're interested. And I think if we said that ice is there, you'll get even more. So the short answer is yes, the majority of the things on that list we've reached out to and talked to.
Appreciate that. While you're there, Janet, just wondering, I think we need to hang a sign saying we're open for business, and we need to pack the ice full of bookings, 12 months of the year, certainly at the Plex. And I have absolute 100% confidence that you fill those ice lots. There's no question in my mind today that would be jam full. And I just did a little math on it, but 8 additional weeks at $200 an hour, 8 hours a day is $64,000. We can hire 2 or 3 people for $64,000 to run that summer ice.
And
staffing.
Respectively, if I could just add one more thing to that, the 8 hours of ice, for example, when we talk about, that's prime time ice. And I know, Kristen, you yourself will say, hey, great, you guys want to use prime time, but who's using the daytime? In summer, it's different. The kids are not in school. There's people that are off, they take their vacation, they come a long way. That ice during the day is going to be utilized way more
Right.
in the summer than it would be during our regular season.
And Janet, that, the 8 hours a day, I know we're getting into the weeds for a little bit, but 8 hours a day during the day, and I have no doubt you'd fill it, just by that, looking at that list. Is it fair to say that 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock, your schools, and then is it fair to say that some of the evening ice would be used as well?
Oh, most definitely, because people still work. Like there's people that will do shift hockey.
Yeah.
We didn't have any representation from them today. Shift hockey, you know, that kind of, they go to Tara and Paisley and
Right.
Chesley and all kinds of stuff as well.
And I agree with Councillor Dubinsky. I think, I dare say in the summertime with booking hours from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, and again from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, probably could make a little bit of money on the Plex, you know, and because we'd fill the ice surface. So you made a comment, give us a chance, and I really do think you should be given the chance. You got a group of people in our community, Mr. Mayor, they're willing to fill this ice surface, and so I think we need to do it. And I guess my other question of you is, you know, if this becomes a budget item for next November, December, and the budget's improved in February, does that really give you enough time though, from February next year of 2025 I'm talking about? Does it really give you enough time to track those groups? We wait a whole year for budget approval?
Well, ideally, it would be nice if we could find, like, we're asking for a year in advance. If we could get an answer right now, we would be working right now to fill that ice in 2025.
I guess that's my concern, Mr. Mayor, that you wait, you know, that long. And I mean, keep in mind, into council, this was approved in 2020. We approved it. COVID came along and we pulled the plug.
Mm.
So that's, I mean, so I like to think that, you know, I hope in the report, when it comes back, there's a green light that we're going to have a summer ice in 2025. So you people can start your planning. And I agree, Councilor Dubinsky, let's not wait for 2, 3, 4, 5 months for the report. Let's get the report sooner than later so we can move on with this. The other thing I believe, and I heard one of the presenters say about the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, and that it's tightening up the season, starting 2 weeks earlier. Well, it seems to me we need to get the ice in at the Coliseum 2 weeks earlier. You know, because we keep it out of the Coliseum for the whole month of September, and I think the time has come now. We've got to put it back in earlier. And in May, your point's well taken, and I'm really in full support of bringing that ice in for the month of May. So I hope the staff report. I'm one vote, but I hope the staff report comes back, talks about putting that ice in May, getting in early in September for 2024, and a commitment to go ahead with the summer ice in 2025, because I think I have a lot of confidence in your presenters tonight that you're going to get this done. You sell the place out. So let's put the sign up, you know, we're open for business. That's my view on it.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. We have a projected deficit for the 2024 of 325,000 for the Plex, correct?
We can get you that answer. I don't know if does the Director of Community Services have an answer to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, and presented in the 2024 business plan, the projected deficit was 314.
So 300, okay, I had 325,000, but that's just under, if you use the ice for 8 months a year, that means the deficit is almost 40,000 a month when ice is in. So if we have ice in for 12 months, will we therefore have a deficit back up to more 480,000?
Yeah, and I think these are questions that, with respect, that we'll get through this staff report. That's what we're looking for, is those financial considerations, among other things.
Okay, I'd like to see more ice, but I'm also concerned about the deficits and everything that we're running. And I mean, we're expanding like crazy, ball diamonds, new pool, extended ice. So there is a consequence when we say, oh, the Plex will make more money with summer ice. Will it, or will their deficit just be higher? So I'm looking forward to that, and I want to support more ice, but I'm also going to support a positive business plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stack.
Thank you. So first, maybe just special recognition for Janet, because you gave me that, we had that discussion leading up to this, and she was quite persuasive. So I think it was an important discussion as someone who unbelievably played hockey as a kid. I come from a town where we had hockey ice. We were a smaller community, a less wealthy community. So when I moved here and it took me a couple years to realize, I was actually quite surprised for a community as rural as we are with as many hockey players as we have, that we don't have all season ice. It's a bit shocking, particularly in 2023, or excuse me, 2024. I just, on the point around the cost, so I think it would be great if we can generate revenue, positive revenue, but I think as a community we're supposed to be providing what the community needs. And if there's a real demand for ice, even if it costs us, I think that's something we have to consider. Particularly when you think about where we are and the limited activities kids can do. And frankly, from my perspective in the summer, even just having kids who don't play hockey and don't figure skate, being able to use ice for rec time, I think that's important. And I think of all the deficits we earn or we incur or something related to community recreation activities for kids, it's not a screen or a TV of some form, I think is positive. So I'll certainly support it going forward.
Thank you. Are there further comments? Well, thank you all once again for coming in this evening. We really appreciate your time. And as I say, the work that you did on this, obviously we have a few things to consider. We're going to get this report, and there's a lot of things that go into the operations of the Plex, our staffing levels, and, quite a number of considerations, not to mention the ongoing construction here at this site, which does have real logistical and practical implications in terms of what we can and cannot do here. So just to be, right up front with you, that there are some things that we're going to hear in this report, which are going to mitigate what we can and can't do. But I think you heard around the table, there's a lot of interest in trying to proceed with expanding this level of service. So I think we'll get this report. Council will discuss it, and I'm sure our staff will let you know when that's coming back so that you can be fully informed and involved in those discussions. But anyway, once again, thank you all very much. Oh, just turned myself off. Sorry about that. All right. So we're on to item number 8, which is reports of municipal officers and committees. And there were 2 reports there, 8.2. And the first one is the continuing education policy. And I think that's going to be our manager, human resources.
Thank you, Your Worship. This policy is presented to Council to consider as an additional layer to our existing training and development portfolio, with an aim to support employees in their long-term career aspirations. We currently already offer development at a department level that's targeted more specifically to their existing position, as well as corporate training that targets different skills and knowledge that are for the benefit of employees across the organization. This layer is intended to assist employees that are looking at future career aspirations and looking to further their education, potentially in a different area of the town that may be available to them at some point down the road. So that would be helping, for example, pay for a diploma or a degree in a related field. It has to be something related to services offered by the town, but it may not be what the employee is currently working in. So it has that broader look to future career planning. The approach supports employees who are investing in their own development. So it's a reimbursement at 50% of what the cost is of the material and course costs, up to $2,500 per year. It would be pre-approved, and the reimbursement is intended to be given to the employee upon successful completion of the program that they signed up to complete. This initiative is a direct link to our strategic pillar to build the best municipal team, and there are no additional costs, as the amount to fund this policy is already included in our operating budget.
Okay, thank you. So there is a recommendation that council approve the continuing education policy. Questions or comments from members? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you. I'm disappointed that the kids behind you left just before you spoke, because they could have heard that education is a lifelong process, so they missed that. I was a little confused. Is this a new policy, or you're just introducing it to us so that we know about it? I'm interested beyond that to know if it's not so new, how many people have taken advantage of this in the past. But I'm a little, is it new, or is it just, we're just hearing about it because it's time to tell us about it?
Yeah. Through you, Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, this is a new policy that's being
presented. So we have not had a formal, I don't know if, I can't speak to whether there's been any reimbursement negotiated by employees in the past, but this formalizes an approach that would be available to all of employees, and it is new.
Further questions or comments? Counselor Stack?
Thank you. Just a question on the first come, first served basis. So is it the first people on an annual basis to submit a request and then they're guaranteed their partial payment up until the date when they complete or don't complete? Or is it upon completion that they're guaranteed the first come, first served?
Thank you, through your worship. Great question. And this is what we initially thought we would try because we don't know what the uptake is going to be if the policy is approved. We envision that the first 10 that submit the form to apply will be approved. And then anyone subsequent to that starts forming the list to next year if we end up getting more interest. If we don't get 10, then that won't be an issue. So this will be an issue that we need to look at if there's applications from more than the 10 that we've budgeted. Otherwise, we'll have to come back and maybe revise what the budgeted amount is. So we'll have to base our future either administration of the plan or funding of it based on what we experience once we launch it.
Further questions or comments? Counselor Dubinsky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, just so I've got it straight in my mind, Janice. Like I know many employees have already taken upgraded courses and so on. This is expanding those borders so that more employees can take it if so desired, some sort of education process?
Thanks, through you, your worship. We are already offering some courses through the department training budgets that may be directly related to their role. And we're also offering training courses under the umbrella of the corporate training program. So this is an additional offering that would support somebody that may, for example, be working in finance and decides that they want to go into planning. And so maybe they're going to start pursuing the requirements to complete their planning degree because that's what they've decided they'd like to do moving. So it's about the future career goals they may hold for the municipality in future as opposed to the role that they're in currently.
I think that would be very attractive to the employees we have now to be allowed to set their own course, specifically if they thought they were on the wrong course. So I approve, well, I don't approve. I support this program. I will approve eventually.
Yeah, you'll get a chance in just 1 second. Are there questions or other comments? Yeah, and I think that this is a great policy, and it's what is our goal now is to be top employer by what? By 2029, right? So this is one of those things. We want to be one of the Canada's top employers by the year 2029. And so doing things like this is the kind of things that get us there. We give our staff opportunities to better themselves in their chosen careers, and it benefits us and benefits them, and ultimately benefits the community and the taxpayers. So it's a positive thing, and thanks for your work on it. So with that, I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. So now we're on to our second report, which is the winter conditions road closure location inquiry report. And we have our Director of Operations with the report.
Thank you, and through you, your worship. I'll cover the highlights of this information report. The request was to investigate the Highway 21 winter conditions road closure location south of Port Elgin. This was identified as a 2023 division highlight for the Community Service and Operations Department. The current location of the road closure is Concession 6. The request was to explore the possible relocation of the road closure to Concession 4, Bruce Road 40, some 2 kilometers south of the existing location. So the way road closures work, 3 organizations partner to activate the road closures. In the case for the MTO is the Road Authority. So the OPP, based on conditions, will decide to activate a road closure. The MTO decides where the road closures and highways are located and is responsible for arranging the closure. The town is the boots on the ground supporting the MTO in installing the road closure, barricades, signage, and flashing lights. So the town in this case acts to implement the OPP's closure decision at the MTO's prescribed locations in a nutshell. In pursuit of examining the possibility of doing this with the MTO, there was a meeting with representatives from the MTO on November 7th, 2023. I had not started with the town yet, so I was not present, but the manager of Public Works and the director of Community Services were there and discussed it with the MTO. The MTO raised concerns during the meeting and followed those concerns up by email. And that list of concerns is provided pretty much verbatim in the staff report here. The current location is at the MTO right-of-way Port Elgin limits, and the MTO indicated moving it to concession 4 pushes the closure 2 kilometers into the MTO right-of-way, creating a potential for a significant increase in liability regarding maintenance of that 2-kilometer stretch. A big concern is there is no overhead illumination at the proposed location. The current location is illuminated and has traffic signals. MTO prefers signalized and illuminated intersections for closure locations whenever it's possible. The proposed location is in an 80-kilometer-per-hour zone. The current location is in a 50-kilometer-per-hour zone. And the increased speed obviously translates to more safety issues. The current location is a flat section of road with good visibility heading towards the closure from all directions, whereas the proposed location is at the bottom of 2 hills with reduced visibility, again, a safety issue. Continuing their concerns, as indicated in their email, the ease of rerouting traffic at the current location versus the difficulty of rerouting traffic back to Port Elgin at the proposed location. There's a potential for vehicles to be stranded and forced to turn around on the highway. The added difficulty in turning winter equipment around at the proposed location versus the relative variety of turnaround spots at the current location. More locations with snow drifting and reduced visibility. And in a nutshell, MTO could not see any advantages for MTO in moving the closure location, and they are the road authority. We additionally have the following operations perspective concerns of our own, and mainly with respect to the town employees and their safety with respect to having to support the road closure location by providing the barricades and signage. And having to go 2 kilometers south into that location is a bit more of a risk to staff. Additionally, the concession 6 location offers adequate logistics, safer opportunity for transport trucks to turn around or pull off the road. The concession 4 location that is much harder for a transport truck, that is. And another good point that was pointed out is that Bruce Road 25 and Bruce Road 33 are the designated alternative routes for Bruce Power employees to use when the highway is closed. That's consistent with the existing concession 6 location, and that route is supported by the county operators maintaining that route as a priority. If we did move it to concession 4, the onus would then be on the town to maintain concession 4 to a higher standard to ensure access to Bruce Road 33. One other point that we've noted since we prepared this report is that there have been a number of bad accidents at the proposed location, most recently on December 15th in 2023. I did not have time to check the complete record of accidents. However, 2023 was a bad year for them. So in conclusion, following the MTO and internal conversations, it is concluded the location for winter road closures remain at concession 6 with no further investigation at this time.
Thank you. So the recommendation is the council receive the winter conditions road closure location inquiry report for information. I have Councillor Mayette and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I fully agree. I think where it is the right place to be. And I see you've mentioned in here that the town supports the MTO by using the barricades of signage and the traffic lights going to flash. I'm not certain that the traffic lights go to flash every time. I mean, we haven't had a road closure, thank goodness, this year. Hopefully we'll get through the year without one, but sometimes the lights don't get put on flash yellow and red, and that creates, especially if it's at Bruce Power rush hour, creates a tremendous backlog of people all the way down Road 25 and 33 and adds to the hazard. So if that's becomes an automatic thing, then I think we're on the right track and we should stay where we are. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you. I understand the arguments or the reasoning that's here. One of the causes of the question initially, though, was there's a development that's just south of Concession 6 that's growing. There's a lot of people that live in there, and it understandably, none of us should really be driving when the roads are in bad shape or a road is closed. But at the north end of Southampton, where the closure happens, there's still a way for people who live up on Tyendinaga or down in that area to get into their houses. There is a development, though, at the south end of Port Elgin that this basically completely mitigates them, shooting out to get down to Walmart, which is not that far, perhaps, to get groceries. So that was part of the reason for the question. So, I understand what the MTO is saying here. I understand the staff position. I would just, ask for, I don't know, some communication with that particular community and those residents to make sure that they understand why. Because really this is before us, I think, and it's been years. I think they were asking for some consideration here. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, the director.
There is a little bit of mitigation that I was made aware of by Ed, the fire chief, who can tell you more about it. But basically, the fire department has provided information regarding closures and personal precautions that people in that specific area should take. I'll let him maybe speak on it if he wishes to very briefly.
Yeah, the fire chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. On November the 15th, it was my pleasure to join the public education team. They produced a flyer that they took door to door to that community and talked about preparation in the event of an emergency, 72-hour kits, what it means when the road closes, et cetera. We were able to meet with a significant number of the residents there. And I thought that the response to that was very good from the people that we did present to.
The Vice Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Davinsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Matt, thanks so much for your report. And I think you and the MTO and I think you got it right. I think that's it should remain as a sign there as a road closed. I also had concerns about the residents, at the south end, and also there's going to be lots of development at the new Tripar golf course eventually. It may take five plus years, but eventually be development in there. But what happens? I get two things. I guess it's common knowledge that if you drive through a road closed sign, that your insurance is null and void. Would that be correct?
I don't know if anybody has the answer to that right here, Vice Deputy Mayor.
Oh, I just thought maybe the chief might have known that. Smart guy.
He doesn't have an answer.
That's okay.
So.
Well, the other question I have, that's okay. The other question I have is, there's going to be a new, hopefully in 2025 it'll open, we'll see, but the Hyatt Hotel is building just south of Aunt Mabel's. So people booking motel room, coming over from Owen Sound from the east, trying to get in the Hyatt Hotel. What happens to those people trying to get through that blockade that's 200 meters away? Because I think when you drive through a sign, your insurance is null and void. And if there was an incident there, you'd be out of luck. Can anybody answer that question for me?
I think that might be an answer, Vice Deputy Mayor, we'd have to put to the police in that would be their area of responsibility and we don't have a representative.
And if they'd be able to still get through the hotel or not, I guess. So that's a year and a half away. So, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure we could look to get those answers for you, but we'd have to get them from potentially the police chief or the OPP. Yeah. Are there further? Oh, sorry, Councillor Davinsky. Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Matt. The first thing I'd like to know, you had a meeting on November 23rd with the parties involved. Was the MTO here to take part in that meeting and to have a look at the physical setup of what we were dealing with?
We'll put that to the Director of Community Service, or do you want the Director of Operations?
I will pass it on to the other director because I
sorry.
was not physically, it was November 7th and I was not employed by the town
Sorry.
yet.
The
so-
Director of Community Services.
Thank you. And through you, yes, the meeting occurred November 7th. It was via Zoom, but the representatives on the call were very familiar with the area.
Okay. And I agree with all the safety aspects that have been brought up. Both the deputy mayor and vice deputy mayor have mentioned in 2021, I brought up a concern at a planning meeting about the proposed construction of that hotel, where guests, I said, there's a quote from me, would be held prisoner if the highway closes. Unless there is a second exit onto Geyer Drive, which the developer was not interested in doing. Otherwise, guests would be driving on a closed road to get to Port Elgin, as you both mentioned, and there could be all sorts of problems. We still haven't solved that problem with the MTO saying that we leave it where it is. I realize it would be a rare happening, but it could happen. And we have to address it if there's a business that's in the closed area, such as a hotel. I don't have a solution for this, but there is no second exit that I'm hearing about here. Geyer Drive would be perfect. Then they just go out the back way and they're off to the races. But they didn't seem to be interested in that. Thank you.
Okay, further comments? I might just sort of follow up on that is, and it's true, it's very inconvenient when the roads close. They close for good reasons in the wintertime, but it's an inconvenience having grown up myself directly between Port Elgin and Southampton on the highway. The road was always closed there, and so I know firsthand what it's like to be that close to town and not be able to get there. And of course, there are businesses there, right? Like in those days, it was Stu Gregg's, now Gingrich's Service Center, open all winter, and it was a business on a closed road, and that's where they were, and so the closed road would close, and they would suffer those consequences, and I assume build that into their business expectations over the years, which other businesses will do. Is it something we want to have happen? No. Is it something that happens on occasion where we live? Yes. And it will affect businesses or residences. And that's the way it is, and it's for their safety. And so it's important that they follow those rules. I think the important thing is maybe what the chief and the director referenced is making sure we communicate adequately to those folks in the community, the neighborhood, the deputy mayor referenced, as well as the hotel and the ownership there, and anybody else who's in areas where the roads close frequently in our community, to talk about how they should plan for that and be prepared for that eventuality in case it should arise, and so that they know well in advance that it could happen and that they should take appropriate steps. So I think in the end, looking at this analysis, and this was something I was interested in looking at myself, I think this is the right call. It's the right place for the closure to be. So let's keep pursuing that communication effort. Hope that wasn't the last time. I'm sure it isn't the last time we'll be doing that, and other communications using different channels and other occasions, I think would also be appropriate, and we should pursue those things. The one sort of tangential thing I would like to raise is in this report, it talks about our own operation staff and the risk they take going out to place those signs. And it doesn't really, from my perspective, it doesn't really matter where the sign is. That risk is still kind of the same. It's, you go out in a blizzard and put a sign up in the middle of the highway. It's not the best time or place to be. And one thing I've seen in other places, particularly even in Kincardine, are signs that are in place year round that light up. And you just, I assume in this office or somewhere, you flip a switch and they come on. And I really think that's something perhaps in our 2025 budget we should look at doing, because I really just don't see any reason why we should be sending road crews out in blizzards to stand in the middle of the road and place road closure signs. So hopefully that's a thing we can put in our docket and look at in our next year's capital budget. Okay. So if there's nothing further, then I'll ask all in favor of the recommendation. That's carried. Thanks very much. Okay, so we're now on to communications and petitions for the committee of the whole, and there are 8 items there. Anybody wish to speak to any of those? The deputy mayor.
Thank you. Number 8 on the list is a subject near and dear to my heart because someday I intend to live in the cemetery. But I'm hesitant about saying we should support this. Of course, it's very specific to the township of Clearview, but the idea that there are some cemeteries which are basically saying, you know, we don't have the ability to take care of this anymore and turning it over to the municipality. I would appreciate if at some point going forward, we have a sense of whether or not that potential exists here. I don't believe it does in a big way because I don't believe there are some private cemeteries in the community that are very small, but I don't think we have any church or larger facilities that we would fall into this kind of situation. But you know, so I'm interested in the item. I don't think we need to support it because, well, it would be good to support it. I don't think it has anything to do with us though, but I would be curious if it did. I'll perhaps send a question to Colin. Is Colin
No,
to Matt? I'll send Matt a cemetery question. So we'll both learn something again, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further comments on any of these? I might just follow up on the deputy mayor's one, if you'll permit me on that. I think the one point in their resolution, the second point under their now therefore statement, to provide annual funding based on the number of cemeteries the municipality owns and operates to municipalities to assist with the maintenance of inactive and active cemeteries is really an important thing. We have an inactive cemetery. There's probably some terminology around here. I hope that that's what our Pioneer Cemetery would qualify as, but you know, we have the Pioneer Cemetery, for which we desperately need assistance to protect and maintain it. And so I agree with their point number 2. And I just wonder perhaps to follow on the deputy mayor's comments, if we should ask staff to have a look at this resolution and maybe come back to us to suggest to us whether we ought to support all of it or part of it. I think I kind of am tempted to support it because of that statement. And but anyway, those are my thoughts on it at this point. The CIO, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are making delegation at the Roma conference later in January related specifically to Pioneer Cemetery. So when we report out on that, we can refer back to this as well for some further clarity for council on it.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you. All right, are there any other questions on any of this item or any of the other items of correspondence? Don't see any. Okay, so that, I believe, brings us to the end of the committee of the whole. So we will look for statements by members. The deputy mayor.
Thank you. It's been a long time since we did this. I want to thank Councillor Grace for not being able to go to a SMART meeting. So I got to go to my first ever SMART meeting. So now I know what the Vice Deputy Mayor has been talking about on and off, and Councillor Grace as well. It was a very pretty, and it was the Friday before Christmas, and very full meeting, lasted half the day. It was a good place to be, and certainly in light of what's going on in the neighboring county with their transit system, SMART, I think, is working towards long-term sustainability and all that kind of stuff that's just very good. I will leave it at that, except to say that if anybody's watching who's a senior, programming at the Chantry Center, the Senior Center in Southampton really is getting going again tomorrow. Lunch is on. And if you've gone before, go again. If you've never gone, lunch is pretty cheap and it's a good way to find out about all the programming there. Thank you. I'll be there.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a few items. And first of all, I want to thank Councillor Halpin. And, you know, he's done just a tremendous amount of work. Robert Stanley, of course, the Spark Center is going really, really well. I think Councillor Halpin will attest to that. You're there volunteering. I think it was over 50 registrants, I think, in their first session for electrical and plumbing and welding, and just a great program. And I think I think our commitment was $50,000 to the Spark Center. And I know former Councillor Matt was a big part of forming Spark, and it's just a great program. So I just want to thank you people for doing what you did. because I think it's just off to a great start. And thanks, Bud, I know you do a lot of volunteering there. And I also wanted to thank, the Walker House and all the other donors that sponsor all those free public skates. I had my grandkids out over the vacation there, the Christmas holidays, and there's a lot of people show up for those free skates, and which is a great thing. So we're a very active community, and to all those donors, thank you so much. And the other thing I wanted to two other little things here, but I just wanted to say to you, Mayor Charbonneau, that being appointed as Bruce County's deputy warden. I don't know whether this was mentioned before Christmas or not. If it was, forgive me, but I think some things are worth repeating twice. And you've been appointed as Bruce County's deputy warden. So congratulations on that appointment. And it's good to see for our community too. And happy New Year to everyone in the community. Hope it's going to be a great 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Mayat.
I don't have a great deal to speak about over the holidays other than it was productive and safe, and I guess a fish story. We have two schools, one in Saugeen Shores, one in Tara, that have school hatcheries. Actually, two in Saugeen Shores. One is St. Joseph's, Saugeen Central, where we have baby salmon that have transitioned to solid food, and we have a 100% success rate going so far for the kids. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Duhaime.
Nothing new. Just want to wish everyone a happy new year, and I hope council and staff enjoyed their 2 weeks off over the holidays. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Friday, we took part in the 25th anniversary with a special council meeting, which indeed was a council meeting. And it was great to see some people from the past there sort of handing the torch again to those of us who are getting ready to move forward. So I'm sure others will have more to say about that. I like to wish everyone a happy new year. That's me buying time here because now I can't remember what the other thing. Yes, as a matter of fact, one thing on the ice issue that we talked about. I was told last Friday that if by chance, there are only 2 games left in the regular season, the 19th and the 26th. And the one on the 26th is at Southampton Coliseum. But if those games got snowed out, we have no ice. The Winterhawks would have to move their game to Tiverton. And that means all the people would be going there, the concession stands there would be getting the money and so on. It's a rare shot. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But if it did, it's because there's no ice available at a reasonable time for kids to go see a game. And we'd have to move to Tiverton. So doesn't happen very often, but at least they're prepared for that sort of thing. So that's why I'm really gung-ho about this extra ice time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grace.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Halpin.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Councillor Stack.
Just a comment that I did watch a little bit of the 25th anniversary, and obviously it would have been nice to be there. Unfortunately, I had to be at my day job. I thought it was a cool thing to see, particularly some of the costumed characters that seem to have made their way to the presentation. So I thought that was great, and sorry to have missed it.
Well, we're sorry that you couldn't be there, but it was a really good event, I think, and a great way to kick off our 25th year. And I think that we'll have lots of good events to come. I just wanted to mention a couple things that happened before Christmas that I didn't get a chance to mention last time, but I wanted to. I'm going to get lost here. Holy smokes! Oh yes, the Caitlin Cobain girls silver stick tournament happened the weekend of the 16th and 17th of December, and I was at the opening ceremonies for that. And I just wanted to say that what a huge what a huge turnout of people there was for that. It was the opening ceremonies and they had their skills competition at the same time. But the Plex was, you'll have to forgive me, John, but I don't even think at Winterhawks games, there's that many people in the Plex. The place was packed. It was crazy. So obviously a huge success for minor hockey and for the community. I just wanted to say thank you to the two Saugeen Shores minor hockey and to the whole. And I know that they have a committee, another committee or a subcommittee that works on that. So thanks to them and all the volunteers who make that happen. And the other thing, was the annual general meeting of the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce, which I attended that week as well, in which they inducted their new board of directors. And I just wanted to say congratulations to the new board of the Chamber of Commerce and thank them for their work. Very successful year and lots of exciting stuff that they have planned for 2024, which we're excited to see. So yeah, happy new year to all. And I think it's going to be a good year. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Davinsky. All in favor? The committee stands adjourned and regular council will convene at 8:05. Okay, so it's, are we ready to start again? Okay, so it's 6 minutes after 8 o'clock, and we're going to call to order this regular council meeting. And the second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do so anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments that I'm aware of. So we do have some minutes to adopt, and I have a resolution that council adopt the minutes of the regular council meetings of December 11th and December 18th, 2023, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of December 11th, 2023, as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by Grace. Any questions or comments to any of those three sets of minutes? Seeing none, then all in favor? That is carried. We have no public meeting this evening. We do have a close to public, and we're going into close to discuss confidential negotiations with an identifiable individual relative to physician recruitment. And there is a resolution that council move into a closed to public session in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392, as follows. B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. A, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. So is there a mover and seconder for that resolution? Moved by Stack, seconded by Duhame. All in favor? That is carried. So council's going to move into close to public session. We're going to do that close to public session right here. So if those who aren't involved would leave the room, we will have the closed session. Resolution, the council arise from the closed public session and resume the regular council meeting as their mover and seconder. Moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Stack. All in favor? That is carried, and I can report from closed that council received information on confidential negotiations with an identifiable individual relative to physician recruitment. All right, so now we're moving on to report of the Committee of the Whole, and there is a resolution there on 2 items. Does anybody wish to consider either of those items on its own? Seeing no desire for that, then I'll read the resolution. It's resolved the council received the insurance request for proposal results report for information, and the council approved the 2024 Town of Saugeen Shores business plan to include 1, the 2024 operating budget with a net operating income of $10,145,756. 2, the 2024 capital expenses of $61,920,825 net of revenue. 3, the 2024 use of reserves of $13,774,296. And 4, the 2024 proceeds from a debt of $38,773. And further, the council approved the town of Saugeen Shores tax levy for 2024 to be set to $23,295,469. The council established a rate-based future capital special levy of $496,322. The council approved the BIA levies for 2024, set at $33,000 for the Port Elgin BIA and $57,500 for the Southampton BIA. And the council passed the tax levy bylaw establishing the 2024 tax rates at the January 8th, 2024 council meeting. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by Davinsky. Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, three points. One for clarification, just because the language is a little different than what I've seen before. Number 2.4, the 2024 proceeds from a debt of $38,773. Can that be said a different way? What is that? It's just the language is just new to me.
The Director of Corporate Services.
That we would be taking on debt.
Okay, thank you. Then 2, they're not really questions, they're really comments or encouragement. The rate-based future capital special levy, I think, is a very good idea going forward. I think there's a good place in some kind of communication soon to really explain what that is to taxpayers. And also with the suggestion that it's set out over a period of time and it will increase over time, because it's a little different than the other special levies that are on the tax bills. I also would just appreciate if very specifically we can say, I don't know if anybody's watching, but the tax rates, if they can be just said what they are, so that somebody who's watching would be able to look at their tax bill and have a pretty good idea of where they're going to end up this year, knowing that it's a whatever % increase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Jim. Jim, my question relates to 2.4 as well, the proceeds from a debt of 38 million. So what I've been reading and hearing is that interest rates in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter could start a downward trend. Let's hoping that becomes a reality. And so the $38 million, I'm assuming a good chunk of that could be the Wellness Center in Lamont Sports Park and other projects, but those are the 2 big ones. And secondly, are those borrowing costs in terms of debenture payments, they locked in for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, probably what, 20 years, Jim, is it? And is it locked in the borrowing cost for a 5-year term? And what happens if rates drop by 1%, for example? I'm just going to use that as an example, but we're locked in, like say it's 5% and rates go down to 4%. Can we take advantage of that, or are they locked in?
The Director of Corporate Services.
If we go with a loan through the Ontario infrastructure, we can get long-term debt that's locked in. It's a double-edged sword, I suppose, in that if rates drop, you don't get the advantage of that, but it also gives you that security of knowing long-term what our payments are, that you're eliminating that risk. It does look like the interest environment is changing, so we may have some good news by the time we take on that that debt later this year. And that would then get rolled into our 25 business planning process and would help us then in terms of tax increases at that time.
You're saying by the time we take on that debt, some of the debt's already been taken on, Jim, and is it 38 million or not?
The debt that you see here is not, we have not taken on yet. This
We
is
have
new
not
debt.
taken it
Yeah.
on. So at what point, are we talking second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? When are we seeing most significant amount of expenses coming in?
We'll put together a schedule and we'll probably spread it into a couple of quarters, again, to help reduce our, if we balance it in a couple of quarters, then you get some, you're balancing then the movement in interest rates, right? So if things do for some reason go up, you've at least got some locked in earlier. And if it does go down, a later one will take advantage of that. So that laddering is a strategy to help mitigate risk.
Got you. Just a quick follow-up. So I understand the risk. I mean, you lock in now and if they go up by 1%, we win. If you lock in and they go down by 1%, we lose. And so the impact, what's the current rate now? If we were to borrow $35 million today, what is the rate, Jim? Do you know?
I don't know the rates in the last couple of weeks, but they were sitting in and around that 5%.
5%.
Range. Yeah.
So once we were to lock that in the end of second, third quarter, say expenses are coming in, what period of time is that locked in for, that loan again?
With the Aquatic and Wellness Center, which is the bulk of this, we were looking at a 25-year loan.
25-year loan. So if it was 5%, it stays 5% for 25 years? Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. The comments, the Deputy Mayor?
I didn't get an answer to my question about a very specific statement as to the blended tax rate, the tax rate. Thank you.
Okay, can you give us those comments, the Director of Corporate Services?
We can certainly add to future recommendations what the town residential rate is. I mean, we could do more than that as well, but maybe to keep it simple, we would just do the residential rate.
So can you give us that number now on this one?
Yeah, I can. I don't have it right in front of me, but we can pull that up and I'll give it to you shortly.
Okay, well, you can report that out to council after, I suppose, then. Councillor Maya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on the interest rate question. If we take out a 25-year loan, most of individuals would call that a mortgage. The term of the interest is dependable, right? You could have a 2-year term, 5-year term, 10-year term. So we wouldn't be locked in for 25 years at 5%. We'd pick a term of maybe 3 to 5 years, and then you renegotiate depending on the economic conditions at the time, right?
We could choose to have a shorter term and then go for a renewal. That's one option. The other would be to lock it in. You have that ability through Infrastructure Ontario to have that certainty over the longer time frame.
Okay, because I think a prudent approach would be to lock in for a shorter term at this point in time, because everybody's expecting that eventually in the next, whether it's 6 months, 18 months, interest rates are going to start to come back down. That's the Bank of Canada has indicated that their intention is to do that once inflation gets under control, right?
And before we proceed, we'll be coming forward to council with different options for consideration before we lock in.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we'll receive more information from staff on that in the coming months.
So, and
yeah,
just to answer the question on the residential rate, it's 0.00747263.
Okay. The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for that. We've said to the public that it's 4.9%, 5%. Why are we not able to give a number like that right now?
Well, I'm sure we can. The Director of Corporate Services.
Yeah, no,
we've done that in the past.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the rate that they could apply to their assessment. It was a 4.99 was the increase. My
Yeah,
apologies.
sorry, I misunderstood that too. Counselor Davinsky.
Yes, thank you. And since we're asking requests here, 4.99 says it all. Says a portion of it. But it makes it easier for taxpayers to say, at a home assessed at $314,000, the so-called blended rate, whatever, will cost you this much. And everybody knows what their home is basically assessed at. Could we not put that in too and make it simple?
Yeah, this was all reported out as to the public after our last budget meeting. Do you want to repeat those numbers too, Jim? Do you have those?
Yeah, I don't have those in front of me right now, but yeah, we've done all that through the communication. That's all available on the website.
It looked
So for
like
today, it's just the bylaw and the passing of the bylaw, but the communication piece was all done previously.
It looks like the CAO has the information in front of her, the CAO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was included in the media release that went out on December 11th, following council's approval at Committee of Whole of what we're reporting out on tonight. So the blended rate, which includes the municipal, county, and education rates, is 4.99%, which includes or encompasses an increase of $17.25 per month for the medium assessed Saugeen Shores household.
Okay. Councilor
Yes,
Davinsky?
thank you.
Okay. Anything further? I did just want to sort of re-emphasize or comment on the deputy mayor's comment about reporting to the public on the future capital special levy. I think that's a sort of a separate annual report on that piece would be a really good thing to do, because now we have this 10-year capital plan where the public can see quite clearly all of the projects that will be funded by that special levy. And we also have so we have the expense side and we have the income side, and we could report that piece uniquely so that the public could see that, you're paying this special levy and this is what you're paying for, and here's how that's proceeding, and here's what you'll have to pay in coming years, and et cetera, sort of a bit of a financial report just about that capital levy, which I think would really be a good, that's, I think, why I like this capital levy, because the public can see, okay, I'm contributing this money and this is what I'm doing. This is what they're doing with it. And they can see that. If we can put it forward to them in a way where they can see it and it's clear to them, I think that would be a really positive thing to do. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, and Mr. Mayor, we were planning on including that an insert with the tax mailings that would detail all of that you're discussing.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Thank you. All right. So I guess just repeat one more time, thanks to you, the director, and to all of our directors and staff for your work on getting us through to this point. It's great to finally pass the final resolution on the budget, and now you guys can start working on 2025. So with that, I think I got a mover and seconder. Yes, I think I did. So with that, I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you all very much. Okay, so now item 2 is Committee of the Whole report regarding declaring intimate partner violence as an epidemic resolution, and it's recommended, or it's resolved, that council support the town of Goderic's resolution to declare intimate partner violence as an epidemic, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to MP Ben Lobb, MPP Lisa Thompson, the Canadian Federation of University Women Southport, Ministry of the Attorney General, Solicitor General, Ministry of Women's Social and Economic Opportunities, Saugeen Shores Police Services Board, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Grace. Any discussion? Seeing, Councillor Mayat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I read this first time and then I read it again today, are we, by passing this motion, declaring a state of epidemic in the town of Saugeen Shores, or are we saying that there's a state of epidemic of intimate partner violence in Ontario or in the town of Goderich? It's in specific, even in the original motion in Goderich, it doesn't say the epidemic is in Goderich. It references an unfortunate situation that took place in Smiths Falls, I think it was in the north shortly before this, which was apparently the impetus to this motion. And so I'm a bit confused as to the geographic zone. Is it all of Canada? Is it?
I think what we're saying is that it is epidemic everywhere, including in the town of Saugeen Shores.
Well, I personally, I certainly am sympathetic to this cause, and I feel sorry for the people that are subjected to inter-partner violence, and I wish that we could do much more than we can do now to support them, but I don't see evidence that we have an epidemic in the town of Saugeen Shores. Through my 8 years on the Police Services Board, there were instances of violence taking place, and as there were many other crimes, but I don't see an epidemic level in our community, and I hope we don't get to that point. And I congratulate the Saugeen Shores Police Service for doing all the work that they do to prevent us from getting to that point. And so I'm just a little bit confused, and I'm going to have a hard time supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think the piece of this resolution that is most important is the statement that Ontario has not implemented specific legislation addressing family and domestic violence that has been passed by 6 provinces and 3 territories. So that's what I see the power of this resolution is asking the Ontario legislature to address that shortcoming and to consider that kind of legislation.
Yeah. I think as with many of these kinds of resolutions, it's about bringing attention to a serious issue. I think no one would disagree. It's a very serious issue. And I think from what we heard at the CFUW vigil, even a month ago, right around a month ago now, including from the Saugeen Shores Police Service, it does seem to be at very serious proportions in the town of Saugeen Shores. Certainly Chantel Primo had her comments there. I can't remember the statistics she cited, but they were very concerning statistics, and a great spike in intimate partner domestic violence in Saugeen Shores just in the last year. So, I mean, we could quibble about the definition of an epidemic, but I think the point is to say very strongly and clearly that this is a matter of great concern, to send this to the province and to say, you guys need to do something about it. It's a problem here. It's a problem across the province. There's things you can do. You should do them. I certainly support it, and I think that's the way we should understand this resolution. Are there further questions or comments? Seeing none, then all in favor? And opposed? That's carried. All right, so now we're on to report of municipal officers and committees, and we have a staff report on the proposed heritage designation at 697 Market Street in Port Elgin, and the deputy clerk.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The attached heritage designation application for 697 Market Street, Port Elgin was received through the Municipal Heritage Committee at its November 15th, 2023 meeting. The Ontario Heritage Act includes a designation process of 6 key steps to designating an individual property under Section 29 of the Act. The property owners have completed steps 1 and 2, which include identifying the property as a candidate for designation and researching and evaluating the property. As summarized in the attached application, the property meets 5 of the 9 criteria, which exceeds the requirement of meeting 2 or more. If council passes the motion to proceed with designating this property, a notice of intention to designate will be issued in the local newspaper as per the requirements of the Ontario Heritage Act. If there are no objections after 30 days, a bylaw will appear at a future council meeting to designate the property. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is a resolution that staff be directed to proceed with the designation of 697 Market Street, Port Elgin in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Halpin. Questions or comments? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a few comments about this application. In its November 15th meeting, the Municipal Heritage Committee passed a resolution recommending that council designate the property at 697 Market Street, Port Elgin, under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act for its historical and structural significance. This property is known as the Hepner House and is owned by the designation applicants Jutta and Julian Job. The Job family have owned this house since, 1971, when Wolfgang and Jutta Job purchased it from Alan Saxton. Our committee was very excited to receive and support this application for some of the following reasons. Our committee was intrigued by how this application provided a window into the early history of Port Elgin. John Hepner, owner of the Port Elgin Brush Company, built this beautiful home in 1910. This brush factory, which was established by John Hepner in 1883, was situated directly across the street to the south of this home. This close proximity permitted Mr. Hepner to maintain close supervision of the factory, which was the longest continuously running manufacturing company in Port Elgin and the largest brush factory, not only in Canada, but in the British Empire. In its heyday, the company employed over 200 people. One of the heritage criterion which makes this property eligible for heritage designation is that it demonstrates a high degree of scientific or technical achievement. This house meets that criterion as the first known residence in Canada to use a remote source for a central heating system using steam. Through a system of underground pipes, steam heat produced by a steam engine in the factory was conveyed under Market Street to provide central heating for the Hepner House, as well as for a number of lumber storage sheds situated just north of the home. In 1910, when the house was constructed, this type of central heating from a remote source was rare and experimental. In describing this system to the Shoreline Beacon in a 1999 article, Wolfgang Job, Yutta's husband, recounted that Alan Saxton, who owned the house from 1943 to 1971 and was the superintendent of the Stevens Hepner Brush Company, would shout good morning to the workers through the underground heating ducts. Another criterion for heritage designation is design. 697 Market Street is a beautiful example of the Edwardian style of architecture, with its balanced design of a large roof with wide overhanging eaves, red brick finish, windows and door with beveled leaded glass, and a generous front porch. The interior of the home is notable for its oak woodwork, built-in cabinetry, and arts and crafts features. Overall, this application demonstrates that this property satisfies 5 of the 9 criteria listed by the province, while only 2 are required. To summarize, those 5 criteria are the design in its Edwardian architecture, its technical innovation through the innovative heating system, historical or associative value, its connection to John Hepner and the Stevens Hepner Brush Company, its contextual value with its visual and historical links and proximity to the sites of the factory and the old railway station, and that it's important in defining or supporting the character of this neighborhood with other century-old homes and buildings. The Municipal Heritage Committee wishes to thank and commend the Job family for its decades of meticulous care and maintenance of this important Port Elgin building, and for bringing forward this designation application, which will make 697 Market Street the first designated home in Port Elgin.
Thank you very much for that. Very interesting. I appreciate the work you did to put that together and give that information to council. Are there further questions or comments on this? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we are on to bylaws. We have 3 bylaws there for consideration. Anybody wish to consider any of the bylaws individually? The Vice Deputy Mayor?
I just have a couple comments about if we could, it's a bylaw.
Well, let me read the resolution.
11.2.
Let me read the resolution first. I'm just asking if you'd like it. Would you like it separated?
Yes.
Okay, so 11.2, you want it separated?
Right.
Okay, so I'll read it and then you will take questions and comments.
Okay.
Okay? So first, so we'll take 2 separately and we'll start with 1 and 3 then. And I have a resolution that bylaws 2, 2024 and 4, 2024 are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 8th day of January, 2024. Is there a mover and seconder for that resolution? The Vice Deputy Mayor and the Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing none, then all in favor? That is carried. And now there is a resolution that bylaw 3, 2024 is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 8th day of January, 2024. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by Halpin. Questions or comments? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Jim. Jim, I see in the report that there's $2.5 million that's required, to get us through that first month or two until such time the taxes, are paid to the municipality. And just for my benefit, well, maybe all of council would like to see this number too, but from 2020 to 2024, that 5-year period each year, could you, it's not tonight, but could you send just a note out to indicate what that borrowing number was for the last 5 years? Is it 2.5 million every year? Is it, how much has it gone up, et cetera, et cetera? Could I get that number?
No, the 2.5 does not mean that we're borrowing 2.5. What it is saying is that we have the ability to borrow
Right.
money. Council's giving staff that ability to go and borrow money if and when the need arises. So it's for working capital, and if it's required for cash flow purposes, we could then for a month or two borrow money and then pay it back when, as you said, when tax
Right.
payments
So I
come
guess as
in.
a follow-up then, Jim, could you provide the number then for the last 5 years, what that borrowing number was for those
Sure.
5 years? It'd just be interesting to know what kind of money we're borrowing, and no doubt at the best rate. But
We can bring a report back at the next meeting.
Well, I
on that.
appreciate that, and I just wonder about the installments, where, I pay monthly installments, so in January, it comes off my bank account sort of thing, and so I imagine lots of people use installments versus waiting for the tax bill. In that same report, could you just give us an idea, I guess just a point of interest, the number of dollars, number of people, dollars, I guess, that came in with installment payments versus waiting for the tax notice? It'd just be an interesting
Sure.
thing to know. And the other part of that is that if we're borrowing money because we're waiting for taxes to come in on our first installment, I think it's February 1st, Jim, is that correct? February 1st is the first installment date?
Yes.
Is that the Ontario Municipal Act that require us to, do they set those dates for tax payment dates for February 1st, July 1st, et cetera, or can we set our own dates? And in relation to that, would it be beneficial for us to have the first installment like January 15th, for example, or are those set dates that we have to abide by?
We have flexibility in issuing the dates. The date of February is, I would say, at the earlier end of most municipalities. Yeah.
Because?
Why that was set at that, I'm not sure what the history is behind the selection of February 15th, but
I guess my point is if it's January 15th, we're borrowing less money, less borrowing costs. Would it not make more sense to back it up 2 weeks is my question. It does not make any sense.
I mean, it's not going to be a huge movement in total.
No.
And so I would say it's probably not worth making changes.
That's fine. And more and more people are paying by just by automatic billing every month. They pay on a monthly basis.
Yes, some are paying up with monthly installments, and we can include that in the
Okay,
report that we
thanks.
bring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are considering bylaw 3, the authorization of interim and final tax levy rates. Are there further questions or comments? Councillor Davinsky.
Yes, in the bylaw 3, 2024, I don't know what page it is, but where it indicates the Port Elgin Business Improvement Area money and the Southampton Business Improvement Area. Southampton says 58.7, but we had asked for 57.5, and that shows up in the, I checked, and it shows up in the report that was sent earlier. So there's a difference there.
So 57.5 is not the correct number?
No, 57.5 is the correct number. 58.7 isn't.
Oh, I see. I get you. We'll turn that to the Director of Corporate Services. Do you see that there?
Excuse me. we can bring that back with a revision then.
Thank you.
Do you want to the director, do you want us just to amend the resolution right now? Or do you want us to defer the resolution and have you return it in its correct form? This one ought to be correct, I think.
I think it may make sense just to bring it back and just confirm that there's,
Is there a motion to defer? Moved by Counselor Stack, seconded by Counselor Davinsky. All in favor of the deferral? That's carried. Okay. So we will then move on to the confirmatory bylaw. And there's a resolution that bylaw 5, 2024, being the confirmatory bylaw, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 8th day of January, 2024. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Stack. All in favor? That is carried. And finally, there's a recommendation or a resolution that this regular council meeting of January 8th, 2024 hereby adjourns at 8:53 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Halpin and Duhame, all in favor. Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.